Welcome in, everyone. This is going to be a very good Studio C session, branching out with our local music scene here at the Summit FM. We got a room full of Summit members for another Wayside Furniture Blind & Sons Studio C session with a local artist from the Athens area, Megan B, joining us here for Studio C. How are you, Megan?
I'm doing so well. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. Your most recent album, Cottonwood, is out now. That was released back in 2022. And of course, performing in concert tomorrow night, February 21st, 2025, part of the Brad Savage Birthday Bash at the Rialto Theater in Akron.
One of the many bashes. We're going to bash all weekend.
Brad Palooza is what I've been affectionately referring to it as. So that's happening this weekend. You'll be sort of kicking off that weekend trek throughout Ohio with Brad celebrating his birthday. Megan, let's start with a song. What do you have for us first here?
All right, let's do it. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she is finding her way through the puzzles, through the crosswords, through the thoughts in her brain. She always writes in pencil, never permanent ink. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she doesn't know what to think. She is careful, she is cautious, she is catching her breath. All the ropes and the tangles and the knots in her head. Studies all the turns, never rushes around. She is careful, she is cautious, she doesn't get too tied down. Love to watch her move, and I never know where she's going to. She is playful, she is patient, she is placing her bets on the hand that's been dealt, on the cards in the deck. She laughs at her chances and she makes her bets small. She is playful, she is patient, she knows she can't win them all. And I love to watch her move, and I never know where she's going to. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she is finding her way through the puzzles, through the crosswords, through the thoughts in her brain. She always writes in pencil, never permanent ink. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she doesn't know what to think. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she doesn't know what to think. Thank you.
What a great song that is. Megan B here for a Wayside Furniture Blind & Sons, a Studio C session for our Summit members this evening. And that song we just heard, Fickle, the one that we've been playing quite a bit here at the Summit, the one that we're really, really liking a lot. Megan B with that new album, Cottonwood, released a while ago now, 2022, and in concert tomorrow night, February 21st, 2025, part of the Brad Savage Birthday Bash at the Rialto Theater in Akron. First question, Megan B, have you ever played a birthday party before?
Oh my gosh, I must have, but maybe not. I think I've like jammed at a birthday party, but I don't think I've like played a birthday party.
Well, a historic first for yourself tomorrow evening.
Man,
at the Rialto Theater.
I didn't realize what pressure, what bigness I was getting into.
I don't know if there's going to be a birthday cake there.
Oh, is he going to have 3 cakes all weekend?
If he's doing it right, he will. But I don't know about that.
Y'all just try to keep up. It's going to get wild.
Yeah, that is. Well, you're kicking off the whole proceedings on Friday night, of course, also at the Rialto. So there is that.
That's good because I don't have to play Sunday after I've had like 3 days full of birthday cake.
That's
I'm not in my best shape.
You're getting it out of the way first, all the sugar. Well, describe to us, you're coming here all the way from Athens in the southeastern part of Ohio, which is the newest signal on the Summit arsenal of radio signals, Akron, Youngstown, and now Athens. We've been in Athens for almost 4 years now or so.
Yeah.
And we're very well versed in the local music scene here in Akron and Youngstown, of course, but Athens is a little bit further away, a far different place than Northeast Ohio. What even defines the local music scene to you down there, and what is it like in Athens for those who might not have been?
Gosh, I don't know that one thing defines it. There's quite a lot of songwriters, and we like to hang out, but everyone's kind of got their own little niche. And then there's a lot of rock and roll, and there's some blues bands. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different stuff going on. And then, of course, we have Ohio University,
yes.
And there's a lot of young folks doing some really cool music and pushing lines in their creative ways. So it's kind of all over the place.
I can see that. And, again, with major university, Ohio University, right there adjacent and in town, I'm sure that fosters the creativity, of course. But yeah, different generations, like the younger college kids, folks our age, and maybe the older generation as well. And that sort of describes what's going on here in Akron, Ohio as well. But you also have that Appalachia feel down there as well.
And
so there's that.
I was going to say there's a lot of old time musicians in our town too. So there's old time jams and old time bands, and there's a Celtic band that plays once a week. So there's these instrumental, older traditional tunes going on in the midst of all the young folks.
And all the cool spots around town, whether they're, like, I don't want to say college bars, but, where the young kids might go, but also just regular stuff. And not in and around Athens also. Just greater Southeast Ohio, like out towards Marietta and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah. I just went to a Beatles tribute show in Marietta a few weeks ago, and it was so good. And all the bands took their own take on it. There was this really heavy band, and there's this instrumental band, and everybody just did really a unique take on Beatles tunes. So Marietta's got some really amazing stuff too.
That's awesome. Yeah. Gosh, to hear. I'm imagining like a metal version of like Eleanor Rigby or something. That would be something to hear for sure.
Yeah, my friends have a band called Hominid, and it's kind of like jazz fusion, and they did Eleanor Rigby. Is really cool.
Well, there's lots going on down in Athens, and I know there's lots of Ohio University alums. It is. I don't get down there as often as I would like, but it is a beautiful part of the world for sure.
It is. I moved down there about 20 years ago, and it felt like home immediately. I grew up east of Toledo, up by Lake Erie in Ottawa County, and I moved down there to go to school, to go to Hocking College, and I just fell right in love with it, and I've been home based there since.
Well, it's a great place to be, and we're happy to have you here. Megan B. joining us for a Wayside Furniture Blind & Son Studio C session, sharing songs and stories from across her music career, and of course performing at the Brad Savage Birthday Bash tomorrow, February 21st, 2025 at the Rialto Theater in Akron. We just heard your song Fickle, which has really quickly become one of our favorites in our local music spotlight category here on the Summit FM. What do you got for us next? What's the next song for us?
This is a tune. I used to hang out with a bunch of songwriters, and we get together like once a week down in Athens, and we'd do this exercise called the Quick and Dirty. Don't worry, it's not dirty. But we'd take one word or one phrase, and then you have only an hour, to write a song with that as your prompt. And usually at the end of the hour, I had written something I just never want to share with anybody again.
typically. But every once in a while, somebody would get like a really cool line or an idea or a rhyme or like a whole thing would come out of it. And I think there's this kind of freedom when you're not taking it seriously. You're like, what can I do in an hour? And then you just go for it without thinking too much about it. And
kind of a nothing to lose attitude, right?
Exactly. And the prompt the one week was to write a name song. Lots of great name songs out there. Eleanor Rigby, Sarah, Melissa, could go on and on, Jolene. But there aren't a lot about Andy, so I chose to write mine about Andy.
Andy, you're as tall as the sunflowers, steady as the summer sun, quiet as a mouse. Andy, I remember back in second grade, all the other boys were pulling my braids. You were staring at the birds. Andy, I've been watching you growing up. I've been growing up too. In your paper, sitting up in an oak tree, looking out at the world. Andy, you were down in the creek bed, found yourself an arrowhead. Would you give it to a girl? Andy, I've been watching you growing up. I've been growing up too. Guess I never really noticed you quite the way that I noticed you last Saturday night. You were standing all alone by the window. Everybody else was dancing. You were staring at the moon. Andy, I want to see what you're seeing. Wish you were looking at me, yeah. The way you stare at the trees. Andy, I've been watching you growing up. Have you been watching me growing up? Hey, pay attention to me.
Thank you.
Well, for given an hour to come up with something about a fictitious person, that sounded pretty good. Megan B. and her song about the mythical person known as Andy as part of a Wayside Furniture Blend & Son Studio C session here at the Summit FM. All the way from Athens, Ohio. Very excited to have Megan B. here. The new album, Cottonwood, released a couple years back and in concert tomorrow night, February 21st, 2025, part of the Brad Savage Birthday Bash at the Rialto Theater in the beautiful Kenmore neighborhood of Akron. And you actually did some traveling yourself recently. You just returned from a trip to California. And I'm just wondering, that's a big trip you just took. Maybe I'm sure you've taken other big trips traveling around and touring across the country, regionally, further out, etc. But, throughout your music career that you've, with all this traveling that you've done, I mean, there's a whole layer of stickers of each state you've been to on your merch briefcase, which I think is awesome. What are some of the most memorable places you've been to in your travels as a musician?
Yeah, well, I guess first on my mind is California. I just got back. I did a little house concert tour out there and then spent the last week of it hanging out in the desert and camping. It was really sunny. I just flew back to Columbus yesterday, and I was like, oh yeah, snow. So I'm kind of surprised. And
what desert were you in California?
Death Valley area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's big and it's beautiful, and maybe I'll talk more about that later, but it's connected with how I got my start in music.
Yeah.
So I was out there. I love the desert. I think it's such a contrast from Ohio, and I feel that pull in both places. You know, I stay there too long, and I'm like, oh, I need something green, and I come back. But it's so vast and stark, and I really love that. And there's some really neat little desert towns, and so I love that. I love the desert and Arizona, New Mexico. But the last couple summers, I've been doing a kind of northern tour, and I've been playing this festival in South Dakota called the Montrose Music Festival, and it's totally way outside the box as far as music festivals. There's a songwriter there named Matt Faulkner, who's a really great songwriter, and I discovered his music, and I thought, man, I want to look this guy up and see if he's touring through anytime. Well, I looked him up, and he's not. He's a handyman, and he's a mason, and he does all this stonework, and he just hangs out in his little tiny town of Montrose, South Dakota. But then once a year, he brings all these songwriters to him and throws this festival, and we take over this tiny town. We take over the park, and they turn the concession stand into a merch stand, and everybody sets up their tents in the little park, and then the little cafe has in the round stuff. So I've been the last 2 years, and it's been a real joy. There's a lot of Texas songwriters that come up from it, and it's something special is going on there. But through that, I've been building up this whole route through the Midwest, and so I have some friends in Minneapolis and other musicians I like to hang with, and that's been a really sweet community to connect with. And
I love this. I mean, you literally have traveled all across the country and finding your people and different stops along the way.
Yeah, and then I flew to British Columbia. My sister's been spending her summers out there on Salt Spring Island, and I flew out there and played a house concert and stayed there and went swimming. That was my first Canada show last summer, so
it's amazing.
International artist.
Yeah, wow. Global tour. Well, let's talk about that though, Megan. You got your start in music somewhere. How did that all begin for you?
Yeah, my background's in environmental education, and I was teaching and leading programs down in the Hocking Hills. I would work with school groups in the spring and in the fall, and then in the summer, it's a Big Brothers Big Sisters camp. We'd bring inner city youth out to our camp, and so I did this for a lot. This is what I went to school. I studied, my actual degree is in ecotourism and adventure travels, which has really helped a lot as a traveling musician, but I didn't play music at all when I went into that. I just knew I didn't want to sit in a classroom anymore, and I wanted to be outside. And so I started in forestry, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted. And then I met all these people studying ecotourism. I was like, oh, you guys want to be like camp counselors? That's what I want to do. And it was like my dream come true. And I did it for a long time. And I love the camp scene and the interesting intricacies of getting out of your comfort zone and learning a lot. So I would work there spring, summer, fall. And then in the winter, they would kick all us hippies out and kind of close down. And so I started this routine of traveling around the country, and I got the guide to woofing willing workers on organic farms. There's farms all over the world that you can go stop, and you can work and trade and learn about farming in exchange for room and board. And so I was traveling around doing that, and eventually I was in Arizona, I think, and my car broke down, and some friends of mine were also traveling. They were on the they were on the camp circuit where we had the whole winter off, and they picked me up, and they said, we'll just move into our car. So I gave my car away and moved into their car, and we ended up just doing some volunteer projects and cruising around and traveling, and we ended up camping in the desert outside of Death Valley one night, and we were way, way, way off the beaten path, and we met some people playing music around a fire, and I fell in love with it and loved singing along. I used to play the flute in marching band, and I had my flute with me. I had a backpack, but I still had a flute in there. It was like... I also played the tuba in high school, but so I didn't have room for that.
There's one in Laura Smiley's office, actually.
Nice.
Literally.
I haven't played that in a long time, but so I had to get my flute out around the fire and kind of play along and try to improvise. And it was so fun. And then I told somebody that, I made up songs in my head, which I had done a long time. When I was in high school, I had this pickup truck that was passed down from my great-grandpa, and it didn't have a radio. And so I just had like a whole album of songs in my head that I made up. I would sing to myself, and I just thought everybody probably does that. But I told this friend I met out in the desert that I was making up songs, and he said, well, why aren't you playing guitar? I was like, I guess I just never thought about it before. And later on, my friends left. They had to go to Vegas. I was like, just leave me here. This is amazing. It's my first big time in the desert, the stars, the music. And I stayed there a month. And then I hitched a ride out and went up to Oregon to meet up with my buddy I'd met out there. And he had 2 guitars at home. And in the evenings, we would sit down and he showed me a few chords. And in the daytime, I would help him with some forestry projects on his land. And I was absolutely hooked. I sang him a song that I'd made up in my head, and then he showed me how to play it on guitar. So the first song I learned was my own song, and it was all of a sudden there was this vehicle to share music with, and I just totally changed the direction of my life.
Megan, this is wild. I mean, you're like the new most interesting person I've ever met in my entire life. Like the itinerant ways of one Megan B throughout the desert and up and down the West Coast and through the plains and all of that. That's incredible.
And so the trip just back from California, some of those shows were people I met in the desert on those early trips. And then I went back to the place where I originally met people around the fire, and it was a President's Day weekend. So, people were out, and it was just the energy of around the campfire. That's really what pulled me in, like this organic spontaneity of people just sharing, and the intimacy around a campfire is really what pulled me into it. So it was great to just go back out there last weekend and soak it up a little bit.
Well, not only that, but you have a way to find it too, it seems. Like you're just, I don't know, you're like a magnet for it. And that is super cool that you just find yourself in all of these great situations that only add to your sense of adventure and travel and the music that you create. And it actually literally led to you becoming a musician and learning how to play guitar. That's so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was a traveler first, and then music found, and I was like, well, that's convenient. Already. People are always like, do you ever get tired of traveling? I was like, no, I don't.
This is what I do. This is who I am, right? Megan B. sharing some fascinating stories with us here as part of a Wayside Furniture Blend & Son Studio C session for our Summit members. Man, we live for these kind of stories here. This is just really great. And the music as well. She'll be playing tomorrow night, February 21st, 2025, part of the Brad Savage Birthday Bash at the Rialto Theater in Akron. And let's do another song, Megan. What do you have for us next
All
year?
right. This is another one off of Cottonwood. This one's called Ecstasy. We were doing ecstasy under the desert sky, in the sand dunes on the 4th of July. We were watching fireworks, trying to figure out how things work. We were staring at the colors in each other's eyes, and I wanna see you look that way again sometime. I wanna see you look that way next time, maybe without the drugs next time. Well, you were tripping on LSD at the Big Rock show. You were doing the twist and the bump. You were really letting go. You were jumping up and down, spinning round and round. You were kicking your heels up so high, and I wanna see you dance that way again sometime. I wanna see you
next time maybe, without the drugs, next time. Well, you were always out there, so far out there. You were always out there, so far out there. You were on a morphine drip after your big accident. You were on some pretty strong drugs. You took them like a sacrament. And now I'm sitting by your hospital bed. You said you could see inside my head. And on your face was a big, ridiculous smile. And I wanna see you smile and awaken sometime. I wanna see you smile that way next time, maybe, without the drugs. Dance that way next time, maybe, without the drugs next time.
Thank you.
Megan B. joining us for a Wayside Furniture Blind & Son Studio C session here at the Summit FM. All kinds of members here on a snowy winter's evening, and just really lucky to hear some of these songs and these stories from Megan B., one of the top local musicians out of the Athens, Ohio area, where our signal originates from at 90.1 FM. Megan, I wanted to talk to you about this as well. Something you started back in 2022 is your own writing project. You mentioned, what you sort of discovered in South Dakota, but this is something you started on your own, and it sounds like it's become kind of a big deal, right? I mean, it's become a thing.
It's one of the most favorite things I do every year. It's called Words in the Hills. And for me, it combines so much of everything I love. So it's like a summer camp themed writing retreat for adults. And so I used to go to this song camp in Colorado called Rocky Mountain Song School. It's still going on. It's so great. And you would go out there and you'd camp out under these cliffs in Lyons, Colorado, and all these musicians would come in and teach classes, and then you'd play around the fire at night. And I thought, man, this is so good. Like, why doesn't it happen a little closer to home? And I've wanted something like that. And eventually I was like, oh yeah, I have a whole degree in organizing camps and hosting events, and I should do it. And so I had the idea kicking around for a while, then the pandemic happened. But when people started kind of gathering, I was like, now is the time. And I put it together, and I didn't know how it was going to go, and I hired some writers to come in, and so it's not just songwriters. Also, during the pandemic, I invited a few friends we had a little songwriting group, and we were all songwriters, but we'd meet in my backyard once a week and do some writing, and then we started branching out into stories and poems and free writing, and we noticed that it kind of enhanced our songwriting. It was fun to dabble in all kinds of different genres. So when I created the retreat, I was like, let's just do all genres. So I hired a poet and a memoirist, and I taught some songwriting, and we all mixed in together. And so poets were taking songwriting classes, and memoirists were taking poetry classes, and I think it's fun to cross genres. So this was my third one. I did this last year, and it's coming up on the fourth one in the spring. And yeah, I was amazed. I put it out there, and then people showed up and they said, wow, I've been looking for something like this. And it was just so validating. It's super fun to get a group together and spend some time outside and write in nature and get to know each other and share some stuff. And we've had people who are very accomplished published writers to people who have never shared or read anything that they've wrote in front of anybody again. And it's all levels of people. So we're having the next one in May. It's already full, but we put a new date down for October. So we're going to do a second one this year also.
Is this an every year thing that you do?
Yeah, it's the last, yes, me, my 4th year in the spring, but
Wow.
I'm adding a fall one on this year.
Well, that's
too.
fantastic. And I love the fact that, like you said, it's not just songwriters, it's any kind of writers, whether it's poetry or just any kind of creative writing. I think that's fantastic. Well, you've also, on that note, this is sort of related to that, but a little bit different. You've also recently submitted an entry to the Tiny Desk concert. There's a contest for that each year. What was that process like, and how was that unnerving for you at all? How did you feel about doing that?
No, I've done it a few times already, and I had kind of missed the deadline the last couple of years. But I think it's fun because, I mean, I'm just out here traveling around my minivan, and sometimes I forget to make like video content, but the contest is fun because it kind of encourages all kinds of musicians to make content, and then you get in this database of all these different interesting musicians who, if you haven't seen the contest, it's just you put up a YouTube video, you have to have a song that you sing, one song, and there must be a desk in the video. That's the in the contest rules.
Yeah.
So when I was out in California, I was seeing my sister, and I was like, oh, it ends this week. And she just did this remodel of her office out there in Oakland, California. And she said, well, do one in here. And so really it was just me singing a new song and standing by her desk in her really interesting looking office. And she was on the couch watching me and cheering me on. And that was the process. And it's funny, the song that I sang is called Mockingbird, and I wrote it there last year because there was this mockingbird that was singing. And then when I was doing the video, I was like, oh my gosh, it started singing outside the room again. So that was kind of fun. We tried to get some of that on the mic, but didn't quite pick up.
That's so cool. I love that. A wonderful coincidence indeed. Megan B. joining us here in front of a room full of Summit members. Great stories and songs from the new album Cottonwood, which is out now from Megan B. And here all the way from Athens, Ohio, one of our favorite local musicians from Southeast Ohio. Megan B. performing in concert tomorrow night, February 21st, 2025, part of the Brad Savage Birthday Bash at the Rialto Theater in Akron. I should mention as well, we found out something the last time you were here.
We sure did.
And that is that you and I have the same birthday on November 17th.
November 17th. Anybody else?
So there is actually someone else in the room.
Are you serious?
Yes,
Nice.
in the front row. Yeah. So 3 people in the room have the same birthday. How about that?
What's your name? Judy. Judy's in the club.
November 17th?
All right.
Yeah. So we'll
Let's
have
make
to
some plans.
We'll attend this, and I'll chant November 17th in front of Brad Savage. How about that?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
We're gonna birthday bash. It's gonna be huge. I actually had a big one last year. I rented out the entire local roller rink for my birthday party.
I remember you telling me about that. I love that.
You should have came.
I should have.
Yeah.
I should have. But I don't know how well I can roller skate anymore.
Oh
So
yeah, there was some
there's
nasty
that.
falls going on. It
Yeah.
was.
I'm not trying to dislocate my kneecaps or anything.
No.
Anyway, Megan B. joining us for a Wayside Furniture Blend & Son Studio C session. You have another song for us. What do you have for us next here?
Yeah, and so I've been rolling around touring that Cottonwood album, but I finally slowed down enough to get back in the studio. So I'm just the first of the year got back in the studio and have been recording a whole lot of new songs and really looking forward to the project. And I noticed as I'm like gathering these recent songs together, there's a lot of theme of slowing down and resting, and I think maybe that's what I need sometimes, and I think a lot of people are looking for that right now. And so this is one of those songs. This is called A Soft Place to Land.
Concrete and iron, bridges and barbed wire, the city, the sirens, the show, rough edges and asphalt, it's hard to stand. I'm looking for a soft place to land. I'm looking for a soft place to land. Jokes in the boardroom, words in the restroom, gossip heard over the wall, deadlines and drama, another demand. I'm looking for a soft place to land. I'm looking for a soft place to land. Ooh. Life is hard and I know it's not easy to live with me when I'm going down. A blanket, a promise, a warm, steady hand. You're always my soft place to land. You're always my soft place to land. Ooh.
Thank you.
Very well done. That was a lovely song. Megan B. joining us for a Wayside Furniture Blind & Son Studio C session for Summit members. And, you're playing the Brad Savage Birthday Bash tomorrow at the Rialto Theater. I sort of just remembered this, too. I just want to get your thoughts. You were part of our 330 Day concert last year at the Kent stage. And, sort of the first time we've had someone from the Athens area perform at that. What was your impression of being there for that, participating and getting to know some of the other local musicians, some of our members and listeners in attendance? That whole thing had to be pretty special, right?
It was super special. I'm honored to be the ambassador of Athens. I told you guys, I came up here and visited once, and I said, I'll be the Athens ambassador, and I try to spread the word down there because people who've caught on to the station, they really, really love it. And I think the more people just hear about it. So shout out to all my Athens people back home listening and supporting music. We got a strong crew down there. So it was just like an honor to come up from Athens and kind of, bridge that gap. It's so far away from here, the mothership. Right. So it's nice to just kind of bridge that gap and keep that community rolling, because the whole state of Ohio is so rich in music. So it's
Absolutely.
An honor to be included and not forgotten. We're way down there. I think people often forget about us down there.
Well, we don't forget about you. We are very much aware, and we love that area down there. I mean, the last 3 years I've been to the Nelsonville Music Festival. You performed at that. I think the first time I was there in 2022. But every time I'm down there, with my Summit T-shirt on, I always see people who are like, oh, we love the station, and they're very happy to have us down there, and we love that. So it's all part of the next step of world domination for the Summit FM is kind of what our plan is here, right? So Megan, we have you here. Can we get one more song from you here as part of this Studio C session?
I would love to play one more song. I mentioned I used to teach environmental education, and so that's inspired me a lot in my life, and it's inspired a lot of my music. It's inspired this tune in particular. This is called Little Birdie, and hanging out with kids in the woods has been just a treasure trove of ideas and curiosities, and I'll give you all a little part in this. So pay attention. In the third verse, I'm gonna say Little Rock, and then I'm gonna knock on my guitar 3 times. You guys can clap 3 times with me. I'll say Little Rock. Let's try that, and then you guys are gonna clap when I knock. Ready? Little Rock. You got it. Oops. You got it. All right. Third verse. That's your little part. It happens 3 times. This is being recorded for radio, and it's being filmed, so no pressure, don't mess up. Thank you all so much for being in this room. Thank you all so much for having me. This has just been such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
What you gonna do, little birdie? What you gonna do all day? What you gonna do, little birdie? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna pick some berries and crack some nuts? Swallow some seeds and dig a worm up? Build you a nest of sticks and leaves? Sing a sweet song in the morning breeze? What you gonna do, little birdie? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna fly away? Are you gonna fly away? What you gonna do, little oak tree? What you gonna do all day? What you gonna do, little oak tree? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna drink some water and stand up tall? Change your color when it turns fall? Stretch your branches way up high? Dance in the breeze as it blows by? What you gonna do, little oak tree? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna grow so tall? Are you gonna grow so tall? Ready? What you gonna do, little rock? What you gonna do all day? What you gonna do, little rock? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna hold somebody's memory? Skip across the waves, headed out to the sea? Be the firm foundation of somebody's house? Lay in the ground so the plants can sprout out? Or what you gonna do, little rock? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna lie so still? Are you gonna lie so still? What you gonna do, little children? What you gonna do all day? What you gonna do, little children? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna pick some berries and crack some nuts? Swallow some seeds and dig a worm up? Build you a nest of sticks and leaves? Sing a sweet song in the morning breeze? And drink some water and stand up tall? Change your color when it turns fall? Stretch your branches way up high? Dance in the breeze as it blows by? And hold somebody's memory? Skip across the waves, headed out to the sea? Be the firm foundation of somebody's house? Lay in the ground so the plants can sprout? What you gonna do, little children? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna fly away? Are you gonna grow so tall? Are you gonna lie so still? Well, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Well, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do, little birdie? What you gonna do all day?
From the great city of Athens, Ohio, the incredibly talented singer-songwriter Megan B., one of our favorite locals from that part of the world in Southeast Ohio. And we'll extend out a bit from time to time from the 330, and a worthy addition to just so many of the great artists we play here at the Summit FM. The album Cottonwood is out now, released several years back, and of course in concert tomorrow night, February 21st, 2025, part of the Brad Savage Birthday Bash at the Rialto Theater in the Kenmore neighborhood of Akron. Summit members in the room, let's give one more round of applause for Megan B.